Your friend in Central Illinois. WHOW.
It is WHOW. Good morning. Welcome into the WHOW Morning Show. I'm Jared White, your host this morning, and for Seth Lawrence and our WHOW Morning Show video stream on Facebook Live and WHOW TV on YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. We welcome into the studio here at the Big Red Barn this morning, Mr. Paul Skowron. He is the CEO of Warner Hospital and Health Services. Good morning, Paul.
Jared, good morning.
How are you, sir?
Wonderful.
Very good. Good to hear. And how are things at Warner Hospital and Health Services here in the month of October?
Very normal.
That's good, right?
We're just talking about flu clinics and preventive medicine and 3D mammo and all the good things that we used to talk about pre-COVID.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's good to hear. And of course, following up the monthly board meeting that happened earlier this week. Is that right? Or what?
It was last
week,
last Monday,
yeah,
which was the day after Apple and Pork weekend. Obviously, one of the busiest ever. So, and I must say that our emergency room was moderately busy, and I'm so glad we were there. There was a few casualties, both maybe ankle sprains and so forth, but also a couple of possible heart attacks. So we got some really nice communications back from those patients and those patients' families that they were so glad that Warner Hospital's emergency room was there that weekend.
Yeah, I saw the ambulance go out a couple of times, and anytime you've got that many people in a community, you're going to have things happen.
That's right.
It's one of those things, and it was a little warm on Saturday, so maybe some heat-related issues in the afternoon. I'm not sure, but
yes,
I could see that happening.
Could have been a lot worse, but it wasn't high 80s or 90s like past years. So it was manageable. That's the good news.
Is Apple and Pork weekend typically the busiest weekend of the year for Warner Hospital and Health Services?
It tends to be.
Yeah.
I think last year was kind of unusually quiet, but in the prior years, especially those high heat weekends, it was tough. Yeah, we were scrambling.
Is the hospital, I would assume that a lot of the hospital employees are very active in the groups that are represented throughout the community that weekend with the different booths and whatnot.
That's right. We have a lot of employees that are volunteers in all the booths.
Yeah. So it's a busy weekend for everybody around the community, and glad to hear it went well for Warner Hospital and Health Services. But so following up that monthly board meeting, what's been going on lately for the hospital and the surrounding entities?
So we reported on another good month financially for the month of August and September. But we gave an update on 4 construction projects that are ensuing. The largest of those and the most important, in my view, is the expansion of the emergency room. And so the engineers have completed their studies, identified the walls that can be moved and can't be moved. But they're preparing a final report so that we can send a letter to Illinois Department of Public Health asking for permission to begin that construction. That request usually takes 2 to 3 months. So it probably will not be until after the first of the year that we can start any construction. And it'll be a slow process because we can't close down the emergency room, of course. And so it'll be in stages. But I would anticipate that by the middle of next calendar year, we should be able to complete the emergency room expansion. So in addition to that, there is a grant that was provided by the state of Illinois' economic development last year that allowed us to begin the design off-site on city-owned property out to the southeast, out by where the wood chipper is. And we'll be building a emergency preparedness garage out there that'll have 3 doors. And so most of that cost will be borne by this grant that was provided to us last year. That construction also won't begin until after the winter. The other 2 projects are the specialty clinic will have a new entrance to the west coming in off Mulberry Street. And that design has been completed and the engineers have finished that report. We'll have to submit that request to the state also for permission, so that construction won't begin until after the winter. But in addition, the parking lot where there are two houses to the west of the hospital right now, those two houses will be removed, and the parking lot will be expanded specifically for the new entrance for the specialty clinic. So the specialty doctors, the specialists that come there will be able to park there, but more importantly, the patients will be able to park there and walk into the new specialty clinic entrance next year.
Wow, there's a lot going on.
There is.
4 big projects right there, and it sounds like it's going to be a busy spring come spring 23.
Yes, and we've really been planning for this for the last few years, in the sense that we've been saving our money, our profits, and we will not be incurring any debt to make these investments for the community.
That's even better news when you look at the bottom line for the hospital, because it all equates into more services. It sounds like better services.
Expansion of services.
Yeah. So let's jump back a little bit. You mentioned the emergency room project. I know you and I have talked about it on the show in the past. I'm sure you and Seth have talked about it on the past, but just a quick reminder for folks what that is and why that's needed.
So we have a small area now where emergency patients are first triaged, that is separated by curtains, doesn't provide much privacy. We'll be expanding that area. We'll actually have, right now the staff are sort of shoehorned into a small room. The ER nurses and the ER doctors, they will have finally a larger nurse station to examine all of the activity in the emergency room, like a typical emergency room in other hospitals. We will have 3 additional exam rooms provided. We'll have an isolation room that we haven't had before. And so all of this will provide for more flow, and it'll be safer for patients and for the employees, so that when there's too much activity going on and tensions rise, and it'll be better for safety, reduce errors, and it'll just be a better patient experience overall.
And that's all being done in the current space?
It's all being done in the current space, and we have one of the smaller emergency rooms in the state.
Sure.
And so that can't stand any longer, and this will provide for better service, and it'll also provide for more capacity for these busy weekends that we just got done talking about.
Yeah, definitely. So that's one project. Then you mentioned the emergency preparedness building. That's going to be on city property. So when you say emergency preparedness building, what's that going to house? What will be?
So there are trailers on hospital property right now. There are actually 4 separate trailers that house emergency supplies for all kinds of occasions. Hurricanes, tornadoes, and the worst kind of disasters that one can plan for that we haven't seen yet, but we have all the supplies in these trailers, and those trailers are not temperature controlled, but they have the capability to be temperature controlled, but they'd have to be plugged in. It is much safer if all emergency supplies, the ideal, according to the federal government, is to not have emergency supplies on hospital grounds. Let's say a tornado did hit the hospital, then all those emergency supplies are in one area. It is best to have them located just off-site where you can access them and then help the community. And so that's what we're going to do. We'll finally have an off-site, but not too far off-site, just 5 minutes drive away, all the emergency equipment and supplies. So the supplies, let's just say there's plastic and rubber gloves and syringes and needles and all these things. They deteriorate if they're in a trailer that's constantly vacillating between heat and cold in the seasons. It'll be in a temperature controlled building finally, and they'll last longer.
Sure. Probably more secure, I would think, too.
Much more secure.
Yeah, that's the first thing that comes to mind when you say in a trailer somewhere.
That's right. That's right.
So yeah, so again, that's going to be a project that'll start in the spring and is grant funded.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's great to see that it's grant funded, and then the specialty clinic entrance and parking lot. So more parking. The parking lot just kind of went through a big change here a few years back, and with the removal of the house and expansion. So definitely parking a premium. It sounds like around the hospital these days.
That's correct.
Yeah. So big projects there, and any other highlights? What that we haven't touched on those 4 projects, Paul?
As we're able to provide more service, you just pointed out that patients need to have somewhere to park. So we have each couple of years found a need for more parking spaces. And so this expanded parking on the west side will continue to provide more space for patients to access the services.
Specialty clinic. I thought of a question that I had back when you were talking about it. So with this, when you say specialty clinic, there might be folks out there that say, well, what's the specialty clinic? What does the specialty clinic do? Why does it need a new entrance?
Great question. So you know that we have the building to the north right up against the hospital called Family Medicine, Warner Hospital Family Medicine. So that's where you go for your primary care. That's where you go to see your doctor for either preventative medicine or the walk-in clinic. You're not feeling well, you make appointments with your doctor. Well, the doctor may recommend that you see an ear, nose, and throat specialist like Dr. Glickstein that's in our specialty clinic that comes from Gibson Area Hospital. There may be a cancer diagnosis. We have 2 different cancer specialists that come to the specialty clinic. There might be some GI problems, and therefore you'll come to see Dr. Clark, our GI specialist. So rather than sending you to a specialist in Decatur, Springfield, Bloomington, Normal, many of the specialists come right to our specialty clinic, and our primary care doctor will then write a script and say, please go make an appointment with Dr. Glickstein for your ear congestion problems or sinus problems.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like specialty clinic sees a lot of traffic throughout the week there.
It does.
Yeah.
And so what's going on now? What has gone on historically is you need to come in the front door, take the elevator upstairs, walk through the patient care area. This is not ideal.
Mm.
It is better in hospitals that are built new these days. All specialty clinics have their own separate entrance. So much better infection control.
Mm.
You're coming right into the specialty clinic to see the specialist.
Sure. Yeah. Makes a lot of sense.
Right.
So, kind of getting updated with the times, it sounds like.
That's it.
Yeah. So a lot of good stuff happening there.
And that's a lot cheaper than building a new hospital.
Also very true. Paul, we're coming up on a break. Any other highlights from the monthly meeting back for the September meeting of Warner Hospital and Health Services Board?
No, sir.
Very good. Oh, one thing I was going to ask before we hit the break. Apple and Pork Weekend always means the Swifty Swine 5K. How did that go for the Hospital Foundation this
About
year?
120 people attended. It was wonderful. I mean, you couldn't ask for better
Beautiful.
weather.
Yeah, beautiful.
So some record times by our employees.
Very good. Very good. Sounds like everybody had a good time.
They sure did.
Good time for a good cause.
That's right.
Very good. So we'll take the time out here. Paul, thank you for coming in this morning.
Thank you.
Again, folks, our guest here on the WHOW Morning Show is Mr. Paul Skowron, CEO at Warner Hospital and Health Services. Quick time out and back with more here on the WHOW Morning Show.
WHOW.
Let's check the opening numbers now at the Chicago Board of Trade on this Tuesday. I'm Jim Taylor for the RFD Radio Network. Corn, beans, and wheat all starting the day higher. December corn, $6.84 up 3.5. March corn up 3.25, $6.90 3/4. May corn, $6.91 up 3.25. November beans starting the day, $13.86 1/4 up 12.25. January beans up 11 3/4, $13.95 3/4. March beans $14.02 3/4. That's up 11. December wheat $9.18 up 6. March wheat up 6, $9.31. May wheat $9.38.5. That's up 7 1/4. October bean meal $408.30 up 2.70. And October bean oil in the green to start the day, $66.88 up $1.53. In the energy market, November crude oil $85.83 up $2.20. Jim Taylor for the RFD Radio Network.
Baum Chevrolet Buick also has transportation options in Farmer City. This is Scott Baum. Baum Motor Company in Farmer City has been open since 2002. We have used cars and trucks, SUVs and crossovers to fit your transportation needs. We also have a convenient service option for maintenance and repairs, plus trailer sales and trailer rentals. Come see Chase Stevenson, Taylor Kennedy for sales, and Matt French for service. Baum Motor Company in Farmer City, right from the start.
Clinton Save-A-Lot owner Dave Jackson here with a supply chain update. While we're working as best we can to keep our shelves stocked with the items you need and want every day, we're experiencing never-before-seen interruptions in product availability and delivery, both through Save-A-Lot and our direct suppliers. In most cases, they can't run their production lines due to the lack of workers, plus a shortage of truck drivers. Despite all that, we're working to keep the meat, produce, and other products you buy in stock and on our shelves every day. Your Clinton Save-A-Lot appreciates your business, and we hope to see you soon.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
It is WHOW. Once again, good morning. Welcome back into the WHOW Morning Show. I'm Jared White, and our guest, and for Seth Lawrence, I should say, and our guest in studio this morning is Paul Skowron, CEO at Warner Hospital and Health Services. Again, you can check out our video stream going on right now on Facebook Live and WHOW TV on YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Again, Paul, thank you for taking time out this morning as we catch up with what's going on at Warner Hospital and Health Services. And we were chatting during the break there and mentioned that October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
It is. And all hospitals are promoting it as they should this month. And as I said earlier, it's just, I'm really glad to be able to talk about normal preventative medicine that we talked about, routinely in the past prior to COVID, but COVID took so much oxygen out of the room and it got in the way. And as a result, that 3D mammography in the last 2 years, only about 12% of the women accessed 3D mammography. This is a low for the last 25 years. It's not a good thing. And so I really do encourage women to get in, because the facts are that when they do have normal preventative 3D mammography, 90% of the cancers are caught at a stage 1 level. And so it's so much better for the patients, for the outcome, to catch it at stage 1. And it's a better patient outcome, but it's lower cost for the healthcare system rather than stage 2, 3, 4. People lose their lives and things like that. So this year, more than ever, I really am encouraging women to come in and take advantage of. We have a machine called the Hologic. That's the manufacturer. It's the largest provider of 3D mammography in the country. It's the same 3D mammography unit that the larger hospitals have, but it's right here in Clinton. Mm-hmm. So let's get those participation rates up and try and catch some of that stuff early.
Somebody hears this and says, well, it's been a while. I should get in there. Can they make an appointment pretty quickly and get in, say here in the month of October?
Yes, absolutely. They can either call and ask for the radiology department, or they can call their provider in family medicine and ask to have them make an appointment for them.
Mm-hmm. So very convenient there. And when it comes to that upgrade in technology, that happened not that long ago, right? That was pretty recent.
About 4 years ago.
Man.
I know it.
Time flies.
Again, COVID took away so much of what should have been happening. But yes, it's 4 years ago we purchased that machine, and actually it was the hospital foundation that promoted that and provided for being able to purchase that machine. They generated the funds for that. So that was a big win for our hospital foundation.
Yeah.
And
which ties back to the Swifty swine we just talked about.
There we go.
Yeah.
Also promoted by the hospital foundation.
Yeah. So when it comes to the process and with an upgraded technology, I would think it's probably an easier process for the patient to go through to get a mammography.
Exactly. The room itself has been modified to be, friendly and inviting. There's a separate room for changing for the women for the 3D mammography. So we try to make it a pleasant. I know that all mammographies are not pleasant. It depends on the person, but we try to make it as pleasant as possible. We've got some staff that are veterans at this and really do their best to make it comforting for the females. So
definitely get that mammography scheduled if you haven't had it. You mentioned preventative medicine. Is that an overall, take of preventative medicine that the numbers of folks getting those preventative checks and exams are down since COVID?
It is. The DEXA scan, that unit that we have for brittle bones, this is more, your doctor will recommend this more for the seniors. The 3D mammography is really all ages. Unfortunately, you still see cancer in younger women, being presented, but brittle bones and things like that, not taking the proper osteoporosis, not taking the proper vitamins to prevent osteoporosis and things like that. So your doctor is going to recommend also having a DEXA scan to see where you might be brittle. And, my wife is a Medicare patient and she's very healthy, exercises almost every day. And yet she had a DEXA scan and the doctor said, we've got to get the vitamins up because you're still, your right ankle is still turning red with too much exercise. It's not a good thing. So these things, at least they can be identified and you can take measures to wrap the foot properly and, take preventative measures if you're going to continue to be an active senior.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So, but get that preventative check done and
Exactly.
physical exam,
Identify the
annual
weaknesses,
exams.
do things preventatively ahead of time, proactively to prevent problems.
Mm-hmm. So keep that in mind. And I'm checking the clock here. We're running out of time here. I know you got a couple other events coming up that you wanted to mention.
Flu season. We need
Flu
to talk
season.
about the flu clinic. And the flu clinic, we just had our first flu shot clinic on September 28th, and 30 people came and took advantage of the flu clinic and got their flu shots. And it was in the foyer of the family medicine clinic. There's plenty of room there. We're having another one on October 12th, and that is from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Flu shot clinic at family medicine. Ages 9 and over, Medicare and commercial insurance only. While supplies last, must be 14 days after a COVID vaccine. But this is the season. There is discussion that this could be a bad flu season. Part of that is because Australia, after COVID, just experienced a really bad flu season. I don't know that applies to the United States, but because there was so much attention last year and the year before on COVID, so few people got flu shots that there's just concern that the immunity is not there. So people need to get their flu shots.
Go ahead.
I would also like to talk about the smoking cessation class that starts November 1st at Warner Hospital. Now, ordinarily there would be a charge for this, but First National Bank has provided a generous grant, and so it is free. And it is a 7-week smoking cessation class that starts November 1st. And once again, people should take advantage of free. First National Bank providing this generous grant. You can contact Melissa White at 217-937-5202. It's a 7-week class. Wouldn't it be nice to by Christmas be able to say, I don't need to put a cigarette in my mouth. I'm going to put the peppermint stick in my mouth instead.
Yeah. Great idea. We're running out of time here, Paul. Again, if we want to find out more, how do we do that?
If we want to find out more about the smoking cessation classes that start November 1, contact Melissa White at 217-937-5202 or go to the warnerhospital.org site or Facebook.
Sounds great. Paul, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jared.
Paul Skowron, he is CEO, Warner Hospital and Health Services on WHOW.
The Big 1520 WHOW Clinton, 92.3 FM W222 BG Clinton, 106.5 FM W293 DJ Normal Bloomington.
Believed to have landed in the Pacific Ocean. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff said they also detected a launch of a ballistic missile that was fired towards the northeastern